All right, cool. Imagine we move. I'll get it one day, mate. Right, cool. So sleep. We're just going to go through why it's important and how to optimize it. So first and foremost, why do we care about sleep in the first place? So obviously there's a lot of benefits to good sleep hygiene. In my opinion, most people just don't actually realize quite to the extent of the importance of it. So sleep's important for good physical performance. So you're going to perform better in the gym. Improved cognitive performance, so you're going to be more mentally capable at work. It's going to be easier to adhere to your nutrition because of improved appetite. So there's two main hormones at play here called ghrelin and leptin. So ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and when we have lack of sleep, that hormone is increased, so we'll actually feel hungrier. And leptin is the satiety hormone. So that's the hormone that we feel when we feel full up, and that one is downregulated. So when we don't have as much sleep, we feel hungrier and we don't feel as full.
Okay.
It's going to be good for improved recovery, improved memory, improved energy, improved mood. It's going to reduce the risk of common health issues, and it's going to reduce stress. So there's a whole host of positives of just quite simply getting more sleep. And I've quoted myself down at the bottom here saying, if you could package up the benefits of sleep into a pill and sell it, it'd be more sought after than the latest iPhone or Off-Whites. But instead it's free and requires some simple lifestyle changes, so no one really gives a shit. Nice and simple. If you could package up all of the benefits you get in a sleep and you could sell it as a supplement, it would be worth thousands of pounds and it would outperform any other supplement on the market. So the benefits of sleep are just too good to kind of look over. In my opinion, when it comes to optimizing results, there's three main things that we want to look at. We want to look at your training, we want to look at your nutrition, but we also want to look at sleep. So I kind of see it like this, where the missing part of that triangle for most people is the sleep aspect. And the clients generally who get the best results are the ones who know how to optimize their sleep. So very, very brief look at the circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is like your body's natural body clock. So dependent on what your body expects to happen at certain times of day, it will emit certain hormones. Two main hormones that we're going to look at are cortisol and melatonin. So cortisol generally is elevated in the morning and melatonin generally is elevated at night. So very, very, very simple graph here to kind of show how it looks. In the morning, you wake up, you feel alert. That's why cortisol is raised. So a lot of people think cortisol is bad because it's like a stress related hormone. Cortisol isn't bad. Cortisol in too much is bad, but in exactly the same way as too much melatonin can be bad as well. So that increases during the morning and then drops off, and then melatonin increases during the evening and drops off in the morning. Mm-hmm. So the sleep cycle. So this bit's going to get a little bit sciencey and a little bit techie, but there's basically 5 stages to the sleep cycle. There's stage 1, where eye movement starts to slow down, your muscles start to relax and breathing starts to slow down, body temperature starts to decrease. So that's when you're in like a really light sleep, and that's 5% of total sleep time generally. Stage 2, there's no eye movement detected. Muscles start to relax more, breathing slows down more, and stage 2 is generally responsible for about 55% of our total sleep time. Stage 3 and 4 was also called deep sleep. There's no eye movement, heart rate and breathing becomes as slow as it'll be, and that's about 15% of total sleep time. And in this deep sleep, that's generally when your body repairs muscles, tissues, stimulates growth and development, and emits more growth hormone and stuff, boosts immune function, and builds up energy for the next day. Your body will give yourself a set amount of deep sleep depending on how much it thinks it needs. Generally, we'll have a little bit more when we're younger, and then as we start to age, we'll have a little bit less. Stage 5 is REM sleep, so also known as rapid eye movement sleep, and that's basically when your eyes behind your closed eyelids are pinging about, brain activity increases, heart rate and blood pressure increases, and then your muscles relax more, and you actually go into pretty much like you're pretty much paralyzed when you're in this like stage of the sleep cycle. It's really, really hard for you to wake up. Body temperature continues to fall, and this is when dreaming occurs, and this is about 20 to 25% of your total sleep. Like I've said here, that's when dreaming occurs, and REM sleep is what's really, really important for committing things to long-term memory and like brain development and whatnot. So a normal sleep cycle looks something like this. So this is what most people would see on their Fitbits if they track their sleep on here, hence why I use this graph. So it kind of comes up and down, and everyone's will look completely different. But generally, we want to be aiming for about the percentages that I showed you on the previous slide. And most people want to aim for about 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. You'll see these people who are like, team no sleep, I sleep for 4 or 5 hours a night and I feel fine. They're basically idiots. But like, even if you can get away with it and you feel fine doing it, my argument is always, would you feel better if you had more? And there's recently more research coming out, seeing what happens if you push past the 9 hour mark, if you get 10, 11, 12 hours. And it's actually been shown to have no significant downside to it yet, and only really positives. And when you look at some like highly performing athletes, such as like LeBron James, he sleeps for something ridiculous like 12 hours a night, because of like the level that obviously he performs at. So more could be always better, but we're not 100% certain on that. So just a quick one to go back over sleep. The amount that we actually know about sleep is relatively little compared to what we know about other stuff. So like the scientific research and the amount that we generally know is actually quite small. I assume, I don't know, I'm not a scientific researcher, but it's just quite a hard thing to look into at depth, and it's such an individual thing as well. But so the actual important bits, how to optimize your sleep. So things that we can look to do. Sunlight exposure in the AM. So if possible, especially during lockdown and whatnot, if you can get out for a walk, a run, a cycle, whatever, first thing in the morning or in that mid-morning kind of phase, the sunlight basically helps us to increase serotonin production, and serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, what's that hormone that's really responsible for our sleep. So by making sure that we get enough daylight during the day, we can then increase melatonin production during the evening, what's then going to help us to fall asleep faster and fall asleep into deeper stages of the sleep cycle. My next one would just be routine. And this is one of the most important ones, but the ones that most people neglect, is to try to have the same wake up time and the same bedtime 7 days a week. It's obviously always very tempting to go to bed later in the evening and to up late. Sorry?
Sorry, it's all right. No, don't worry.
It's always quite tempting to go to sleep a little bit later in the on the weekend, sorry, and to wake up later. But as much as possible, try and keep it nice and consistent, because like I said earlier, your body emits certain hormones depending on what it thinks is going to happen at that time of day. So the more frequent that we can get this, the more your body kind of knows and expects what's to happen. Just doing them two things and limiting your blue light exposure is more than what 90% of people need. So my last one is just to down-regulate blue light exposure. So on your iPhone, you can download a kind of like orange tint onto your laptop and whatnot. And it basically just puts like a little bit of an orange tint over your screens and whatnot. And that down-regulates the amount of blue light that gets emitted from your devices. So blue light is basically designed to keep us awake, and it down regulates melatonin production again. So if we can limit the amount of screen usage that we have during the evenings, then it's going to be beneficial to you. And preferably have no screens at all 30 to 60 minutes before bed. I say 30 to 60 because if at the minute you watch TV or you're on your phone till the minute you fall asleep, start off with 30 minutes and then try and work your way back to 60 minutes. But preferably 60 minutes before bed, you turn all screens off, you'd have no overhead lights on and whatnot. And then we'd just spend that time kind of winding down. So ideas for what you can do in that 60 minutes before bed was just going to help you to quieten your mind and just help you to relax a little bit. A warm bath has been shown to be beneficial because it raises your body temperature when you're in the bath. When you get out, your body's naturally cooler, so it'll help you to fall asleep a little bit quicker. Meditation can be really, really useful before bed. I always recommend just using the Headspace app and just following like something guided. It's just guided breathing. It will just help you to clear your mind, slow your heart rate down, and to get your mind settled, ready to go to bed. And then finally, if you do have a really, really busy mind, then journaling in the evening before bed can be beneficial as well. So things not to do for sleep. training late. So when we train late, your body's in a sympathetic state. So that just basically means your heart rate's elevated, your blood rate is your blood pressure's elevated, your breathing's elevated. And as we saw earlier, when we're trying to fall asleep and we're trying to get into the deeper stages of sleep cycle, we want all of that stuff to be coming down, not getting jacked up from training. So if possible, not training late in the evenings, always going to be more beneficial. Try not to eat late. So especially when you eat a big meal, your digestive tract has got to process that, which means that a lot of blood is going to be going to the digestive tract, what's been shown to stop us from getting into the deeper stages of sleep cycle again. Try not to work late. So again, for a lot of people, work is a very, very stressful thing, what means that you're sympathetic. You're going to be sympathetic dominant. So that fight or flight nervous system, where we want to be more of the parasympathetic state. So try to have at least an hour before bed that you completely chill out and you do no working. And then finally, drinking alcohol. So while a lot of people think that when they drink alcohol, they can fall to sleep a little bit faster, again, it's been shown to disrupt the deeper stages of the sleep cycle, and it stops you from getting into that deep sleep that we kind of want for its restorative ability. And then finally, it's just your sleeping environment. So try to keep your bedroom as sleeping and sex only. Have no work in there, have no screens in there, and have no eating in there. I understand that depending on where you live, depending on what rooms you've got available to you, sometimes there might have to be a little bit of an overlap, but preferably would have it just as a sleeping environment. The thing with working, like watching TV, eating and whatnot, is your body associates different rooms in its house with what it expects to happen, as ridiculous as that sounds. So if you're eating, working, everything else in your bedroom, you're going to find it a lot harder to associate your bedroom with actually going to sleep. I recommend everyone to try and get blackout blinds or an eye mask. Obviously, blackout blinds can be quite expensive, so an eye mask is a really, really easy way to go. A study has shown that even a pinprick sized piece of light on your leg when you're asleep can disrupt your sleep cycle. So we basically want your room to be completely pitch black and make sure you can't even see your hand in front of your face. And then finally, make sure that you've got a nice cool temperatured room. So everyone's probably found out that in summer, it's really, really hard to fall asleep just because the heat's so high. And as we saw earlier, we want our body's temperature to drop as we enter the deeper stages of sleep cycle. So we don't want a really, really hot room. We want it to be as cool as possible. So that is everything. So Matt, do you have any questions for me at all? If I've covered everything, then happy days.
No, mate, that's really good. Thank you. All makes sense. Reminded me of my A-level biology and chemistry in terms of the melatonin and serotonin. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, that's really useful. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome, mate. Now let's see if I can actually pause here.